friends, welcome back to another 5-minute review. I'm hoping we'll get this done in 5 minutes. I think we can. Let's do it. Okay, so I have here The Maid by Nita Prose. So this was a really hyped book. If you were on Goodreads, people have been saying that this book is going to be, everyone's really excited for it to come out. And so I listened to it via Audible, just because I always listen to like mystery thrillers. And these are my thoughts. So let's get into it. Start the clock. Okay, so like I said, this is The Maid by Nita Prose. Our protagonist here is Molly the maid. She works at the Regency Gran. She loves her job. She has issues with social cues and social norms, and some would say that she presents maybe with neurodivergent qualities, but it's not outrightly said, but it is highly inferred in the books just by the way that other people treat Molly. They're not very kind to her in the book, but she just doesn't understand social cues. She seems to be pretty gullible. She takes people at face value, which honestly I wish we could do, right? The people who don't say what they mean kind of trip her up. And so she usually has her grandmother that she can, take back certain situations to and have her help walk her through what is actually being said. But her grandma dies early in the book, right? And so she's just navigating life without her. And so when a guest shows up dead in his bed, as she says, as she's cleaning his room, she gets kind of embroiled in this world of, who killed Mr. Black? Who was it? And a lot of people kind of think it was her, just because the way that she talks about it, and just a lot of different circumstantial things make it seem like that she could be the prime suspect in the murder. And I think one of the main themes in this book is that just because someone presents differently or doesn't act the way that you would expect them to act doesn't mean that you can assume their intentions, right? As Molly would like to say, you make an ass out of you and me if you assume. And that's what people do. And that's why they think that she is probably guilty of, this murder. And I would say for most of the book, you're like, did Molly do it? Did she not do it? I don't really know. Like, who actually did it? It's a cozy mystery. Let's be honest. So I love gritty. People are dying at any moment. You could die in the book. You know what I mean? Those are the type of thrillers that I like. So this is definitely a breath of fresh air in the sense that it's very light. It's kind of delightful. It's a cozy mystery. So you're just uncovering clues with Molly to figure out what happened. She's, a sweet protagonist. She's very gullible, but I think obviously the author has had a character in mind when she wrote this book. And I actually know someone very much like Molly. So for me, it seemed very realistic to me. I know some people are like, oh, she just falls for anything. I actually know someone like that, and who is very similar to her in the qualities that she has. And so for me, reading it, I was very attached to Molly and upset when people, were not kind to her. So it did evoke an emotional response from me, which is probably why I rated this a 4 stars. Because it was good. I mean, there wasn't a lot of twists, not a lot of turns, really. Everything you can kind of see a mile away. I would say the last hour and a half of the book is probably not necessary. There's a subplot that kind of comes to an end in the last, hour and a half. It's just not really necessary. And then the one twist, I guess you would say, that happens at the very end that is revealed. If it hadn't happened, I could go either way. It wasn't necessary to have. If it hadn't been in there, I wouldn't have really cared. There was nothing that it really lent to the rest of the story. So that's all I would say. I'm going to go in really quick, so I don't know how much time I have left, but I'm going to go into the narration if you're listening to this book, because I want to say the narrator was not my favorite. And I think she was trying to do a character, and it took me, 25% of the book to figure out, is this how she speaks? Or is she actually trying to do a character like she thinks this is how Molly would talk? And I think that's what she was doing. It was like a character voice. And I don't know how I feel about it. I don't know. And then all the other voices that she did for anyone else, was like an East Coast accent, which is fine, except for when she voices Juan Manuel, who was an immigrant from Mexico. It's a struggle there, and I don't know how I feel about it, but you know, some of us just aren't really good at accents. I did acting for a little bit, and there's no way I could do any kind of accent without it sounding horrible, like I'm making fun of someone. So like, kudos to her for trying. But I don't know that I would listen to it. The narration was kind of just hard for me to get through, and I had to speed it up. So I would give it a 3 for the audio portion of it, but holistically as a story, if you're reading it, I would say it's a 4. It's worth it, I guess. I would, on the hype scale, for how hyped it was, and for everyone that I've seen that has said how much we should read this book and that you should pick this book up, for living up to expectations, I'd give it a 2. I don't think it needed to be, you know, everywhere, because then it kind of did make it a little disappointing when you're reading it, but it's like an average okay book. So I give it a 4. It's not Serpent and Dove, I'm gonna tell you that. And it's definitely not rock, paper, scissors. So if you want a nice, clean, cozy mystery where there is no sex, there's no murder, well, I mean, there's a murder, but you're not involved in that. It's not very graphic. And you don't want to be on the edge of your seat the whole time. You just want it to be like a nice, you know, story that you can just kind of follow along without feeling anxious. This might be for you. So that is The Maid, my 5-minute review. I hope I made it within 5 minutes. I don't know. But keep a lookout for more book reviews. Let me know what you're reading and any suggestions that you might have. All right, I will talk to you in the next one. Bye.